When I was 3, my parents moved us into a new place. The house was nice, but kind of old. It had all sorts of facilities with a small child hospital next to it. The neighborhood was an old 50s tract home area, so it had a pretty varied group of people living there. As soon as we moved in, my dad started noticing weird things with me. He would hear sounds of laughter coming from my room, and whenever he went in and asked what was so funny, I would tell him that the kids were laughing at me. At first, he thought it was just my imagination and I was making everything up. Sometimes, he would hear the sound of shouting and angry groans. He just ignored everything until that day. So, as usual, I was playing in my room and suddenly I started crying. It was so loud that my parents came to me running. Mum held me and asked why I was crying. The children scratched my back with their long nails and it hurt so bad, I replied, sobbing. Concerned with the pain in my voice, she checked my back. It was full of scratch marks as if someone was trying to tear my skin apart using some sharp knife, or as I told her, nails. She was horrified by the scene and gave me first aid straight away. This incident made me feel unsafe in my room, and I started spending all my time with either of my parents. Finally, my father decided to renovate the house and give me a new room right next to them. As he was shifting my belongings to the new room, he noticed something odd outside my window. There was a strange-looking stone placed right next to the wall. He went outside to the garden and examined the stone. It looked as if something was written over it. He decided to take it in and inspect it. As he tried to lift up the stone, he realized that it was just part of something bigger, buried deep inside the ground. Out of curiosity, my father started digging around the stone and discovered that it was actually a tombstone. He also found a wooden coffin nearby. Inside it were bones of small children. He freaked out and showed it to my mum. They informed the previous owner about the discovery, and he told us that our house was built in the place where dead bodies of children from the hospitals were buried. This made living there uneasy for us. We moved out of the house after a month or two. I don't exactly remember any of these incidents, but the fear in my mum's voice when she talks about this incident makes me believe this horrific story. This happened when I was a younger kid, maybe 10 or 11. My cousins and I were staying with our parents at our family's campgrounds, way out in the Appalachians in West Virginia. We were always going off and exploring the woods, the nature and everything, and we knew that down the road from the camp, which was not like a tent-style camping area, but full of cabins and a big house that our uncle built for us for everyone to stay in, there was a path that led up to a big field. So we all decided we're going to walk down one day and take that path up to the field and just go play around. When we got to the field, we were kind of surprised to see that it was maintained and the grass was mowed, or at least it wasn't tall. While playing out there, we saw off in the distance that there's something out there with a black wrought iron fence around it, and it turned out to be that incredibly old cemetery. Now, what immediately registers as creepy is the fact that there is no way to get to that cemetery except by foot. It's surrounded by acres and acres of field. The gate to the fence was locked, and so we decided to climb it and go in. We were checking the tombstones out, and they're all from like the 30s and back, really old. We noticed a lot of them had little mementos and stuff left there. And then my cousin saw a big, shiny stone on one of them, and he pocketed it. Eventually, we ended up back home. So, where it gets creepy. That night, we all wake up to a loud banging on the front door. It sounds like someone is straight up trying to kick the door down. and we're all freaking out. We're in a cabin for the kids, by ourselves, and all our parents are surely asleep. I'm feeling paralyzed on the sofa, and I begged my cousin to look out the window, when suddenly the banging stops. We all crowd together on my couch, and no one moves until the sun comes up. So my cousins and I figure maybe it's the stone he took, and we need to put it back. There was just one little problem. We couldn't find it. Eventually we assumed he lost it somewhere or something. I don't remember the exact details, and it's not until we made our way back out to that cemetery a few days later with some cousins. There, we found the damn stone. Right back where he took it from, sitting on top of that tombstone. We ran for our lives. This story is of the time when I was a college student. After completion of the final exam, we had to submit a group study project to conclude the course. Professors were teaming all of us into a group of 4 to distribute the workload among us. In my team, I had 2 girls and a boy. For this story, we will call them Jack, Susan, and Lily. All 4 of us weren't sure of what we would do, but we had a notion that we would do something great. As the submission date was inching closer, we started searching various topics on which case study could be prepared. Finally, all 4 of us agreed on a topic: bursting common blind beliefs. This seemed interesting and an out-of-the-box idea to us. Out of various places we could go and start our project, we selected this remote town of India because of 2 reasons. 1, we had never been to India. 2, many blind beliefs are seen in that region. So, we packed our bags and landed in a city called Delhi. Our destination was about 130 miles from there. We took a bus, and by the time we reached the town called Mahona, it was night already. We spent the night in a hotel, and the next day we went out on our expedition. We talked to some natives, and they told us that there is a forest in the outskirts of town, and no one shall go there alone. In the forest, there was an old house, where an old witch was said to live, and she fed on young people's blood. This seemed too much to us. We were thinking that it's 2017, and people still believe in this stuff? It was kind of a joke to us. Further, when we asked if anyone ever saw that witch, everyone replied no, which further strengthened our thought that this story was just made up. Finally, after collecting enough information, we were quite sure that nothing would actually be wrong with exploring that place. And that was a big mistake. We decided to go and explore the forest the next day. As the sun rose, we went towards the forest. All of us had GoPro cameras with us, and we were confident enough that we wouldn't find anything, like an old vampire lady, sitting on her relaxing couch with a freshly killed body on her dining table. We reached the forest by 11 AM and went in without a second thought. We searched through the whole area but couldn't find any old house, or the witch. After hours of roaming around, shooting just trees and bushes through our camera, we decided to go back to the hotel and conclude our project. As we were turning back, we started having this feeling of being watched. At first I thought it was just me, but later on when we reached the hotel, I shared what I felt. All 4 of us were having the same feeling. Finally, we celebrated for the project completion and everyone went to bed. We were all tired due to the expedition and dozed off soon. My sleep was interrupted by this low counting sound, as if someone was counting them right next to my ears. I got up, and thinking of it as a dream, I slept again, and after an hour or so, I started listening to those counting sounds again.
1, 22, 23, 24.
I got up and couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. Next day, it was Jack who complained that he found 21 written on his shirt. Then Susan and Lily said they had 23 and 24 on theirs, and I had 22 on mine. It looked as if it was written with blood. We thought it was some sort of sick prank and complained to the manager, who was terrified when we showed him the numbering. He asked if we'd been to the forest and we replied, yes. He was instantly worried and asked us to get out of the town as soon as possible. He told us that the witch follows her victims to their place and takes them from there. She marks her target with a number at night before taking them. She had killed 20 people till now, and Jack would be the 21st. We thought of it as a work of a serial killer, but he told us that the people that die do not have any wounds on them. It's just as if someone drained all of the blood from their body. No one had any explanation on how this happens. I don't know, but I had this feeling that this guy is saying the truth, so I decided to return and ask my friends to do the same. We returned back, and when we were in flight, I had the worst nightmare of my life. I saw an old lady sitting over my dead friends and eating their flesh with delicacy. The strange thing was that all 4 of us had the same dream. I don't know why I imagined this in my dream, but I still feel that there was something wrong with that place.